Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between the hills, there lived a man named Narcissus. He was known far and wide for his striking beauty, his charm, and the way he seemed to walk through life with the world at his feet. Everywhere he went, people marveled at him, complimented him, and admired his every move. Now, Narcissus had everything anyone could ever want: the looks, the popularity, the confidence. He was, without a doubt, the most admired person in the village. But there was one thing that Narcissus wanted more than anything else. More than the praise of the villagers, more than the admiration of his peers. He wanted to admire himself, more than anyone else ever could. You see, Narcissus wasn't just content with the admiration of others. He wanted to be his own biggest fan, his own greatest admirer. He found himself lost in his own reflection, the shape of his jawline, the brightness of his smile, the sparkle in his eyes. It was all so perfect, so captivating, that he couldn't tear himself away. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Narcissus spent hours each day gazing at himself in the pond, admiring every little detail. The villagers would walk by, shake their heads, and mutter, "He's staring at himself again." But Narcissus didn't care. In fact, he was becoming so absorbed in his reflection that he started to lose sight of everything around him. And that's where the danger lies, doesn't it? You see, Narcissus didn't just love himself, he envied himself. Every time he looked into that water, he saw a version of himself that seemed more perfect, more flawless, more worthy of admiration than the real Narcissus. And that, my friends, is where the trap is. Because when you start to envy the version of yourself you see in the mirror, you stop living the life you're meant to lead. Narcissus's obsession began to consume him. He spent less time with his friends, less time helping his village, and more time alone with his reflection. And the more he admired what he saw, the more he wished he could be that perfect image, the one in the water. And the further he drifted from the person he was in reality, the more he tried to capture that perfect image, the more elusive it became. The water rippled, distorting his reflection, and for the first time, Narcissus was faced with imperfection. He couldn't understand it. Why couldn't he have the perfection he saw in the pond, the one that seemed so real, so complete? As Narcissus spent more time alone, his connection with the world around him began to fade. He forgot the laughter of his friends, the joy of helping his family, and the beauty of living in the present moment. All he could think about was the perfect version of himself he saw in that reflection, and in his pursuit of it, he forgot that life, true life, is about more than just chasing an image. One fateful day, Narcissus, so entranced by his reflection, leaned in too far and fell into the pond. He struggled, but as the water closed over him, he realized too late that the perfect image he had been chasing was only a reflection of his own longing. The more he tried to hold on to it, the further he sank. Narcissus had everything anyone could want: admiration, beauty, and charm. But in his quest to find perfection within himself, he lost touch with the things that truly mattered. His story serves as a reminder to all of us. There's a fine line between self-love and obsession. And when you cross it, you risk losing the very things that make life worth living. But here's the twist, friends. The story of Narcissus doesn't end in tragedy. It leaves us with a powerful lesson. True beauty doesn't come from staring at our own reflection, trying to be perfect, or envying the person we think we should be. It comes from embracing our flaws, our imperfections, and the messy, wonderful journey of growth. Life isn't about chasing an idealized version of yourself. It's about being present with who you are right now, flaws and all. It's about connecting with the people around you, sharing in the joy of the little things, and realizing that we don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love, success, or happiness. The truth is, the more we try to live up to some perfect version of ourselves, the further we get from the person we truly are. And that person, the real, authentic, imperfect version of you, is already enough. The water stilled long ago. The face once caught in its glassy surface had faded like breath on a window pane. Narcissus, the boy who vanished into his own reflection, left no ripple behind, only silence. Yet the silence said more than any voice ever could. Villagers no longer gathered at the pond's edge to catch their own beauty. They came now with lowered eyes and heavier hearts. They spoke of him not as a warning, but as a question. How could someone so full of life disappear into stillness? No storm had come, no scream had broken the sky. He simply ceased, leaving the world to wonder whether he drowned, or if he was swallowed by something deeper than water. Something that lives inside all of us. Time, as it always does, stitched over the wound. Grass grew taller where his footsteps once fell. Children laughed again, their voices ringing against stone walls, free and unburdened. But under every moment of joy there lingered a quiet thought, a shadow of his story that refused to leave. The villagers had no grave to visit, so they visited memories. A girl remembered him helping her gather spilled apples. An old man swore he saw him offer his coat to a beggar once. These were not stories of vanity, but of a boy who, for a time, was more than his reflection. And in remembering who he had been, they began to question what had truly stolen him. Narcissus was not born gazing into a mirror. He was not made of marble or myth. He was laughter under sunlight, feet muddy from the fields, hands rough from climbing trees. He was loved and he loved back, until something shifted. Praise came first like a feather, then like a storm. Every compliment echoed louder than the last, until silence frightened him. He began to measure his worth by the eyes around him, then by the eyes staring back in the pond. He stopped listening to friends, stopped reaching for joy unless it was seen. The boy who once chased butterflies began chasing validation instead, and it ran him into the water. The pond remains, though it reflects something different now. No longer a trap for the vain, it has become a mirror of questions. A young girl once asked her grandmother, "Why did the boy disappear?" And the old woman replied, "He didn't vanish. He just forgot which part of him was real." In a world where mirrors surround us, where every screen is a glass surface begging for approval, the story of Narcissus feels less like a myth and more like a warning. Not against beauty, but against obsession. Not against self-love, but against self-worship. There's a difference between knowing yourself and never looking away. The villagers eventually built a bench by the pond, not to stare at themselves, but to sit with each other. They planted flowers, told stories, and sometimes just listened to the wind ripple the surface. It became a place of presence, not performance. A boy plays a flute there now. A girl paints, her canvas facing the water but not mirroring it. The pond, once a prison, became a sanctuary. And in that quiet transformation, they honored the boy they lost, not for his beauty, but for the lesson his silence left behind. They placed a plaque beneath a tree near the water. Simple words etched in stone. In memory of Narcissus, may we live beyond the mirror. It does not condemn, it invites. It reminds all who pass that the goal is not to reject reflection, but to refuse captivity by it. That it's okay to love how you look, but only if you also love who you are when no one's looking. Only if you can walk away from the mirror and still feel whole. Because the greatest tragedy wasn't that Narcissus fell in love with his reflection. It's that he forgot how to love himself when the reflection was gone. So, don't get lost in the reflection. Don't envy the person you think you should be. Instead, focus on being the best version of yourself, one step at a time. Embrace your flaws, cherish the people around you, and remember that true beauty comes from within. Because in the end, the most powerful thing you can do is to love yourself. Without envy, without obsession, and without the need to be anything other than who you already are.